Okay, we're live. It's been a minute. Let's see who can make it. I don't have anything specific to talk about right now. So if anybody joins and has any, well, no one's watching at the moment. So I'm talking to the people that are going to watch the replay for now. Um, Yeah, so if you're watching the replay, might I make the suggestion to take a few seconds to just kind of relax? Why not use this just as a quick pause? Just a chance to see what we're resisting. I know that feeling when you're on your phone and you're busy and kind of things are building up in the background, and it's pretty easy just to keep the momentum going. I'll just keep myself busy, and that's okay. No need to add any extra judgment onto that. But when we have these kind of opportunities come to mind, what if I just took a few minutes to feel into the body, to feel into anything I might be trying to get rid of, and what if I can just not change anything, not fight with anything, and not fight with the fighting itself, just kind of step out of the management shoes, basically, and just be aware for a little bit. Just these little pauses every now and then can really be helpful, really be impactful. For me, this is something that was really important in this whole journey, was kind of just taking these pauses to kind of like branch out into not just continued resistance and avoidance, but pausing when you can. So here we start. And I really like to remind myself when I'm doing this that there's nothing to do. Because that's often where that's what we're caught in, is okay, what should I be doing? Where should I be, putting my attention? How should I be doing this? I'm sure there's times when, a kind of directed, focused inquiry or specific sort of practice can be very powerful, but it can be so powerful as well to just really not put your energy into doing anything. So I don't have to manage. I don't have to control. What is it like? The thoughts can come and go. Sensations are already there. And then there's nothing to do. Just notice when you get caught up in doing, really. Oh, I was trying to do something. Well, what's it like if I let go of that? Early on, if we've never meditated before, this can be really confusing or challenging, because we've never oriented to not doing. Um, so, yeah, if it just doesn't click at all, then yeah, give the mind something to focus on. The breath, counting the breath, and yeah, just practice that, and then practice letting go as well. What if I just keep letting go? And then maybe one day we get a taste of just not doing. I remember for myself, yeah, I did focus meditation for quite a while, and I think there's a lot of value in that. But I was always listening to kind of natural meditation techniques on the Waking Up app and from Angelo DeLulo, and yeah, you get a taste of that as well. And it's, I mean, often they lead to a similar place, really, if you can kind of do a focused meditation, but where you just keep on, I don't know, letting go into the sensation itself, and you have a kind of open awareness practice. It can be similar. Rolene in the garden, so it's a one-on-one session. Yeah, for now. Although it looks like there's a few more people online now. So 7. That's a good turnout for the first 6 minutes. Welcome everyone. But I've popped up in my notifications, so I thought I'd check in for a moment. Can't stay for a long time though. Sorry. No worries. Glad you could say hi. Yeah, pop in and out. If you're whenever you're around. If you have anything to share, any questions, any suggestions, or yeah, anything you want to talk about. Anybody who's here, feel free to say something in the comments. Yeah, I often do these live streams because, well, I enjoy them. But I think I want to make a video or something, and maybe I have a few ideas on something to talk about, but nothing's really kind of just flowing, which is how I most like to make a video. There's recently been a couple of videos, and it's just too much up in the head, man. Like, it's useful stuff, but I'll talk about it and I'll play it back, and it just sounds like a bunch of rambling. So I really much prefer just kind of speaking intuitively from the heart. Those are, especially, yeah, those are the ones that I feel like really transmit something. I don't know. But yeah, so that's why I said sometimes I enjoy a live stream, because then you guys or whoever shows up can tell me exactly what they want to hear, or ask me directly. Barbara Ryan. Hi Kyle, I find as I go towards the end of recovery that I feel more anxious. I also feel anxious with the increasing activity, even though I'm able for it. I had such a long period that I couldn't. What does the end of recovery look like? Thanks so much. You're welcome. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So, well, like how this specifically plays out is going to be different for everyone. So, like, it depends on. Yeah, like it's difficult to say what does the end of recovery look like, but the good thing is that there's nothing that's like whatever's coming to the surface is exactly the next thing to be worked through, right? So that's the beautiful thing is there's no kind of wrong turns. Basically, sure, we can distract ourselves and we can keep ourselves stuck by specifically not looking at something, So if we're not being 100% authentic and sincere with ourselves, and we kind of just pretending, oh, I don't know what to do, but we know there's something we're not willing to face. Sure, that can be kind of where we can get stuck, and there can be an obstruction. But whatever is coming to the surface is showing us if there's a hidden belief, or if there's kind of some fear or some anxiety that needs to be worked through. So I would say explore that, right? Just specifically, there's a hidden belief, because that's kind of what generates all of this. Is there's the reason there's anxiety is there's something that we're anxious about happening or not happening. So I would explore that within yourself. Is it like, I'm doing too much, I'm going to lose all the progress I've made, and keep coming back to a space of letting go. For me, that was really powerful because yeah, often there's a, like, letting go goes beyond where we thought it was going to go, right? So it's like letting go of the identities that came along with this, the letting go of what it gave us as well. Now we have to kind of step into the unknown, which can be anxious. But yeah, if you just come back to a place of letting go, be willing to see and be willing to let go. Because it is kind of really a deep surrender process. And if you're just willing to keep letting go, then there's, how do I say it? There's nothing you need to do. You just need to be willing to see and feel and let go. And then, whatever we lose was always going to go. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, let me know. Rolene in the Garden says, every time I congratulate myself on feeling much better, maybe even recovered, I get flooded with old and new symptoms, and then I feel like I jinxed myself that this will never end. Feel defeated. So, yeah, one thing that comes to mind is kind of the clinging that happens when we're feeling good, that will often bring on the fear of losing that, which will trigger that, right? So it's just something to be aware of. Just be aware of our own tendency to fear losing this, and then realize that recovery comes from when we're not afraid of feeling the difficult stuff. So that's why I say always go towards the symptoms that come up, the thoughts and the fears that come up, and sit in it, feel it, open to it, so that, because it needs to be integrated, right? And then, next time we're having a good period, then maybe some fears and thoughts will come up that we're going to lose it. And in the past, that would have triggered a whole cycle. Whereas eventually, once we've done enough of this, that kind of clinging isn't as strong anymore, because we don't have such resistance to the other side of it, right? So that's kind of this back and forth. It's like we want this experience, and then when we have it, it kind of brings on the stress of losing it, which is the funny thing. Then that will keep the cycle going. So it's not about fighting with the clinging. It's just about being aware of it, just seeing, oh, look, there's this happens, but what's it actually about? Oh, it's about a fear. It's about being afraid of feeling the fear, or the fear of losing this. But everything is going to fluctuate, right? So that's kind of, the good period will come and go, and the difficult periods will come and they will go. And the more we kind of cling and push and pull, the more we're going to suffer through these stages, right? It's going to be lots of highs and lows. Whereas if we can develop equanimity, which is just to be okay with what is, but practice this, right? See what we're afraid to feel, see what we're clinging on, and just see it and just explore it. Why? Oh, because I don't want to feel that. It always boils down to aversion. Kind of even all seeking boils down to aversion, because we seek to avoid the feeling of lack, or the feeling of not enough, or something like that. So if we can just keep on looking at what am I trying to get away from, then eventually there's much more kind of just equanimity with what happens. Not sure if that helps. Barbara says, I do deal with the anxious thoughts, but I guess it's surreal to realize that this journey is coming to an end. Yeah. Yeah, it can seem crazy when it felt like it wasn't gonna. But that's why I always say, like, all the suffering is in beliefs about a future that's just completely unknown, right? Like if we think back to the times in this journey when it's the most challenging, if I look for myself, and I'm sure many people can relate to this, it's kind of in the really difficult periods. And the reason for me that was so challenging is because I thought it was going to be like this forever, right? I thought, wow, what am I going to do with my life if in the next 5 years I never have the ability to kind of, be normal or be able to exert myself in any way again. And then seeing that I had no idea what was 6 months down the line. But I had to be willing to kind of feel into the letting go of that. It's like, what if I lose everything? What does that feel like? Because that's where a lot of the growth comes from, is letting go of our attachments and seeing how we can live without them. You can appreciate what's here when it is, but when it's gone, you understand that it's transitory, that it's passing. So yeah, to see that it's coming to an end, it's like, oh my gosh, those thoughts were wrong. Those thoughts that said 6 months ago that I was never going to recover. I'm not saying this was for you, but I'm pretty sure this is the case for so many people. That's where all the struggling is that, when I'm going to crash, I'm going to be stuck, and it just wasn't true. Yeah. Anna, hi Anna. Thank you so much for everything. You're welcome. How did your approach help you to let go of coping strategies like overachieving, people pleasing, always worrying about what other people think? Thanks. That's a great question. So there's a couple of things to get into there, I suppose. But what comes to mind for me is that it was all about kind of being afraid of feeling certain things. I suppose being afraid of trying to hold on to certain identities because, and this is kind of largely unconscious, like when we're holding on to all of these identities, we don't know that we're doing it to avoid something specifically, but kind of through this process, losing so many things, I suppose, or like having to see that those identities were transitory, that basically when the circumstances change, all of a sudden that identity is gone, and now that reveals this kind of attachment and all of the stuff underneath. Like once you've had to see that, but really worked with what came up, that's one aspect of it. Then there's less of a need to be somebody in a situation, if that makes sense. So kind of if I look back at a lot of the kind of those things, people pleasing, worrying about what other people think, a lot of that was rooted in trying to be somebody, right? It was like, how do I be this person? How do I look that way? All these beliefs about how I should engage, how this should be, how that should be. And then through kind of a lot of the stuff I had to let go of in the process of losing and then recovering, I suppose. It was a lot about seeing that, oh my gosh, I was causing myself to suffer because I was trying to be this and I was trying to be that. So then that's one aspect of it, is then we can be in an environment, and if we notice kind of some anxiety or whatever coming up, also an orientation towards vulnerability has been really helpful in all aspects of this journey, because often we're trying to do anything to not be vulnerable, to kind of appear a certain way, to control the environment so that we don't have to feel something. Whereas if we just kind of orient towards vulnerabilities, how can I just be totally vulnerable here. And that's something to explore, right? It's like, what is what does that mean to be vulnerable around other people? And it's like, for me, it feels like letting go from the mind, from the head, and that feels like uncomfortable at first because you realize you're vulnerable. Literally, you're taking yourself out of this imagined controlling space and letting go of that a little bit, and then, but you free up kind of so much more presence in a sense, an ability to kind of just, wow, I don't need to be thinking about what's the next thing I need to say, um, what's this person going to think of me? Because all of that is around trying to keep the identity going, right? Don't feel that I need to control this, so I don't feel that. And it's like, what if I'm vulnerable? What if I'm open? Um, what if I can't control? So that's one thing. This is a deep topic to explore, though. There's a lot of stuff to work through, which I've been exploring a lot in myself over many different parts of this process, right? There's been periods where kind of all sense of social concern just disappeared, and it was just like, just kind of peaceful or interesting to be in many situations. And then there's times when it came back strongly, and it's like always investigating what's going on here. Another thing that I found really helpful is I learned this from Angelo Delullo. He spoken about this in Q&As and stuff. Keep reminding yourself that what other people think of me is their business. And think of it as if you're giving them a gift, right? It is quite a gift to give someone, saying, I don't need to control your perception of me. Because that's kind of manipulation. That's kind of what we're doing with people pleasing and worrying about what other people think. I mean, I'm not judging anybody for it. It's been a big part of this process for myself. But if we look at it directly, it's like, I'm trying to control your perception of me. And it's like, wait, you can just remind yourself of this. It's like, give this person the gift of letting them think whatever they want about you. But I would kind of not do this from a lot of people you see, especially in the, I'm not gonna, I don't like talking about generational differences and stuff, but in the younger generation, you often see a kind of anti people pleasing. It's like, oh, I don't care what you think about me, but that's still trying to manipulate somebody. It's like, what if I just express vulnerably and authentically? And it takes practice, right? So it's kind of an experiment to dive into. But yeah, what you think of me, it's not my business. I can't waste my energy trying to control what everybody's thinking of me. But don't judge yourself around the thoughts that come up. So all the thoughts that come up, and then we're like, oh no, I mustn't worry about that, and that's true. But don't judge ourselves about that. They're just thoughts. It's just the social conditioning that you've kind of taken on over time, and this is how we've learned. Okay, these kind of thoughts come into my mind when I'm in a social situation, and now we're looking at the process of letting go of that. So vulnerable, authentic. You can think of me what you want, and when we open up like this, often the effect is surprising. It's not what the mind thinks. It's more of a, if another person is wired that way, maybe they'll be more authentic as well. They'll let down their boundaries. So, yeah, it's worth exploring. But it's a big topic. I've explored it in myself because there's been so much kind of conditioning there within me. I've also had a lot of those strategies of overachieving, people pleasing, and all of that. And I would say what's most important is also just see all the stuff around validation as well. Like, see how much we seek validation from others, and see that that's never going to give you what you want. I guess this is an important aspect of it, that all of those, like achieving and people pleasing and worrying about that, a lot of that's seeking validation, and then the people pleasing is often trying to give somebody else validation so that they'll like us. It's kind of this game of validation. and just see that you actually just want your only you can really accept yourself, right? So for me, also just coming back into myself and being like, can I just rest in myself? Rest in my own body, and this again takes practice, but that's been a helpful orientation for me. Is like really seeing through a lot of this kind of deep work that, yeah, that's a futile game, because no matter, everybody else is, all these minds are just completely egocentrically wired, right? So everybody's just thinking about themselves. Oh, me, 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 me. So what's the point in trying to earn somebody else's validation? And it's not satisfying. It's not. What is satisfying is really going deep within and seeing that you don't need that. What's satisfying is not needing that validation anymore, and that has to come within. So, yeah, I don't know if that resonates, but yeah, let me know what you think. Matt, what's up? How's it going in Amsterdam? Probably dark there now. Barbara, my next question is, how do you think I should approach exercising again? I can walk 3 kilometers. I used to work out 5 to 6 times a week, which I think may be too much. That's a good question. I've actually, I was recording a video on this because somebody else asked me in the comments, and I was like, oh, I'll record a video on introducing activity and exercise again. And then I recorded a video, and it was like this. I mean, it was all right. I think there was some good stuff I touched on, but for me, I played it back, and it was just sounded like a load of waffle. So I'll see. Maybe I re-record it, or maybe I edit that one and I'll post it. But let's see what comes to mind now. So when I talk to people about increasing activity, because this is often a topic I get into with people in a one-on-one session, and for me, what was important was having the space to balance out maybe the stress that arises around new activity. So kind of being willing to put ourselves into the unknown. I say that's like, that is where we keep having to orient towards, is the unknown. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if this is beyond my boundaries. And then, maybe there's some initial fear that arises, but also notice the freedom that arises from that. Is if we do kind of step into the unknown, there's really kind of a freedom in that, because it's like, wow, I was keeping myself so constrained. Then the other aspect of increasing activity, which I think is really important, and I guess this depends on the kind of phase that somebody's in as well, but I wouldn't just tell someone to go balls to the wall, like push themselves 100%. For me, what was really helpful was when I was meditating a lot, it was really a good counterbalance to not kind of being overwhelmed, basically. So enter the unknown and then give yourself space to, sit with what comes up, open to what comes up, as opposed to the natural resistance response that would have happened in the past that could trigger like a stress and a crash cycle. That's what like whatever comes up is okay, but there's a difference between coming up and then trying to keep ourselves busy and distract, and sitting and feeding into what is. So, that's find the kind of balance of this that works for somebody in whatever stage they're in. But for me, that was the difference that allowed me to increase activity, was the difference between avoiding what came up, and when I was sitting and meditating a lot, I would wake up in the morning, I would kind of meditate 45 minutes, and then I would go for a cycle, and these cycles grew over time, and it was originally just flat, low heart rate, and then getting longer and longer, and eventually I was like, okay, well, maybe it's time to cycle up a hill now, and then deal with the whole process that comes from that. And then afterwards, I would go for a cold swim, and I would spend a lot of time just sitting with what is. But look at somebody's situation. You don't have to do things exactly the same as me. Find what's going to work in your situation. But that's a suggestion I would say, is balance out the pushing with time to kind of decompress, to soothe. And also, for me, orienting towards this even during the activity. So this is something that I started doing a lot of, is kind of exploring my experience in whatever situation I was. And this helped that I had been doing quite a bit of meditation. It starts to carry over into daily life, right? So kind of it starts to change our experience of our mind in the world. And for me, I would go out cycling, and instead of being wrapped up in my head, I would can I just stay with the visual experience? So I would really explore the visual field, and there was some inquiries from the Waking Up app that I eventually got the taste of, that I would kind of bring to mind while I was cycling, and I would explore that, or explore the sensations, right? So I'm going up the hill, and instead of kind of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm pushing hard, my heart rate's going up, instead of feeling, whoa, what are all the sensations in my legs as I kind of increase the effort on the pedals? What is that? And can I really feel into those sensations? And it can become quite almost pleasurable, right? These intense sensations that, if I really get closer to the sensation and rest in it, and I would keep in my mind in the back the mantra, this is good for me. This is good. Kind of just keep on reinforcing that, so soothing my nervous system, not fighting with the thoughts, but just I think that was really helpful. It's I could be going up a hill and my legs would start kind of burning, and maybe in the past that would have triggered stuff, and I had to go through all of that as well. When I initially started increasing activity, there was going to be so many reactions that I wasn't prepared for. But eventually, 6 months down the line, I'd worked through that, and now, yeah, I'd go up a hill and I would feel it in my legs, and I'd be like, this is good, and it just became really enjoyable. I often felt like I was getting rest while I was exercising, because, as I said, that difference of experience of being able to really let go into the visual field, kind of explore where does it feel like I'm looking from, and then can I rest my mind as the visual field, which just might sound confusing and make no sense, and it's fine. It took me a while to get the taste of these kind of non-dual visual inquiries, but just do it curiously. Just kind of be like, well, where am I perceiving from, and what's moving through the world? Does it feel like this visual experience is moving through me, or I'm moving through the visual experience? And just kind of explore that, maybe open your eyes a little bit and just take it all in. Yeah, and then sometimes the thoughts would just really quieten down the more I just kind of stayed with the visual, because it's a way of letting go from the thoughts. And I would notice sometimes I would just become absorbed, and then I would feel like I was at complete rest while I was just exercising. So yeah, even at more rest than maybe in the past when I was doing pacing and I was kind of lying on a yoga mat on the floor, but my mind was racing and I was still stressed out. So yeah, I mean, if that stuff doesn't click, that's absolutely fine, but just a different way of orienting, while we're out there. And then balancing that out with kind of, afterwards, I was doing a lot of stretching as well, which I found really helpful. Stretching before and after would really force me to feel into the body. I would really get out of my head and into the body. Deep stretching was really good. Something I haven't been doing for a while recently, and there was a lot of benefits to that. I hope that answers. Roberta S. Hi Kyle, how did you find a new purpose in life during and after recovery? Everything has changed so much, I'm not the same person now. As I'm improving, I often find myself worrying about the future. That's a good question, because it has been a topic of exploration in myself as well throughout this process. Definitely a very, what have I done? Definitely a very big part of the journey for me as well. Well, one thing that comes to mind is just keep coming back to what's happening here, because often doors will open up when they need to, but we can stress ourselves out unnecessarily by thinking that we need to plan this future perfectly. Like for me, always coming back to a place of letting go and trust in this process of kind of uh, becoming more authentic, kind of seeing through my own resistances. And for me, this kind of trust came from seeing that this whole process was such an important thing that had needed to happen to me, right? This whole thing, once I'd been through the fighting and the refusal and the fear of letting go and all of that, once I'd gone through all those barriers, because obviously if you asked me the first year, I hated it. This was the worst thing that happened to me. But then seeing, okay, no, that's not the case. This is actually the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's forced me to let go of all of these kind of things and open to a real deep exploration that I never knew was possible. A trust arises in that this is beyond me, really. And that when you really let go, life takes care of you. But sometimes that means feeding into that fear of the unknown, right? So it doesn't mean that that fear is not going to be there. In fact, that's something I deal with frequently and it can often be a sign that there's something to look at. So yeah, that's one aspect of it is just kind of see, often we're trying to plan for a future because we're afraid of sitting and really letting go into not knowing, into kind of letting go beyond our own, perceptions of control. So that's one aspect of it, I would say. And then, maybe exploring within yourself what's some kind of authentic expression that I was always maybe too afraid to look at. That's the thing. That's something that I've heard. I think Angelo shared it as well. Is like often, and I don't know how deep this has gone for you with the inner work and stuff, but often when we go through this kind of awakening process of seeing through our own kind of identities and everything we were resisting and afraid of, that can often open us up to do things that we would have been afraid of doing in the past. And I think that's an important part of that question is, what feels authentic? I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm probably afraid to do it, but maybe I should explore this. And just kind of maybe journal it, open up to it, and really, really be willing to feel, not so much just to think. Kind of really let this sink deep, right? Because often if we're trying to answer it intellectually, that's coming from that place of trying to control. That's when we're going to filter out the things that we kind of pull towards, but we're afraid of. In the head, we'll try and come up with the safe answer, the certain answer. Whereas like what really scares me, but at the same time, it's kind of I would like to explore that. That's something. Yeah. But yeah, for me, kind of, the more I let go, doors open up. Like this. This is where I find a lot of my attention going now. Is this kind of stuff. The YouTube channel, the live streams, the one-on-one sessions with people. But I don't know. Like I don't know if I'm gonna go and right now I'm doing some other things to make money because I need to, and that does often. I often grapple with this myself. It's like, okay, but what, and often when I notice this fear arising, this kind of what should I be doing? Honestly, it's often a reaction to what's happening in the moment, and it's a coping mechanism, really. So if I see, maybe there's some kind of tension arising because I'm staying with my family, and then my mind goes to, oh, okay, I need to really solidify a career ASAP so that I can be completely independent and take care of myself and go live on my own again. And that's something to look towards. But if I'm really honest with myself, that's a coping mechanism to not feel this kind of, this what's here, you know, what I don't want to feel. So yeah, I mean that's something that's been very kind of recent for me. Like, it comes and goes. There's times when everything will be fine and it's just working out. But if I'm honest, when that kind of whole fear, worrying goes on, it's more reaction to what's going on here. And then if I just keep on orienting towards the unknown and kind of authenticity, things open up. But I'll let you know. Maybe my answer changes as I find things in myself. You know. So I don't know. I might go study. I might. Yeah, I'm just seeing where doors open up, I suppose. But I can relate. I can relate very much so. Hey Ben, how's it going? Did you like my latest video? Or does it resonate? Uh, Anna, loved your answer. I'm glad. Cybot van der Klei. Just popping by to say thanks, man. I cannot explain how much of a help your videos have been for my recovery journey. Almost there now, and I keep coming back for your videos. You're doing amazing work. I'm so glad to hear that, man. That's amazing. Well done to you. I know this takes a lot of deep work, so you know if you're heading in the right direction, you've done great. I'm just so glad to hear the stuff resonates. Rossi TV, greetings from Finland. Hey Rossi. Julian, hey friend. Hey Julian, I haven't heard from you in a while, man. How's it going? Matt says, yes, it's dark already, rainy and cold as well. The real side of Netherlands you likely missed. Yeah, the funny thing, when I was in Netherlands visiting Matt, it was some of the nicest weather they've ever had, which everybody in the Netherlands kept on reminding me is not normally the case. And then as soon as I left, it turned cold again. So yeah, it's been hot here. Rodine says, Carl, you amaze me every time. No matter the question, you have something sensible to say. I wish I had your wisdom at your age. That makes me sound really old. Thanks, Rodine. I appreciate that. I guess it just comes from having been there myself. You know, I can just relate to what comes up if I fill into the question, really. That's what's so important for me with this. I remember at one point in my recovery, there was kind of a sense of, I've got it all figured out. You know, I want to share this with people, but it wasn't authentic because I hadn't fully recovered myself. You know, I was like, I knew a lot of the important things, but I was still struggling myself. So it was like, I can't go around sharing with people if I'm not recovered yet. So then I had to let go of that, and that was important to see. Like, that was a clinging to some identity, and then now, having been through a lot of this stuff, now it just kind of feels natural. If somebody asks me a question, it just feels, I can relate, I suppose. Ben, good things, still improving. Sorry. Good, Carl. Things still improving. Love the videos. Good to hear, man. Machiavelli. Hey, Carl. What was the first symptom that went away in your recovery? That's an interesting one, because a lot of the symptoms were tied together, right? So like what started happening was I would not have the same crash flare-up cycle, which a lot of my symptoms would come together. So as I kind of got better at accepting and not resisting, and kind of soothing the nervous system and meditating a lot and sitting with what is and resting in a more compassionate sense, the compassion aspect was really a big part of it for me. what that did is it stopped the whole cycles playing out, and all of the symptoms would often come together, right? So, headaches and fatigue and pain and GI issues and whatever, there were loads of different symptoms. But it wasn't like, oh, okay, that symptom's ticked off, now it's just these symptoms that are left. It was kind of just seeing how the whole process was working, and yeah, it kind of stopped these big fluctuations as I worked through what was underneath of all of it, as I worked through the fear and the stress and the controlling and the resistance that was driving all the stress in my nervous system and all of the repression, like, I mustn't feel this, I must feel that. Getting to the root of all of that, then a lot of the symptoms were always tied together for me, I suppose. And being less triggered by symptoms that would come up, like the nervous system still has responses, but it just doesn't play out into the whole thing that it used to. Like if I spend a whole day kind of socializing and talking with people, that's going to kind of make me a little bit more tense and contracted than if I was just kind of doing a lot more peaceful things. Often it will also depend on the conversation and the type of person you're interacting with. If somebody's really kind of getting into all of these like mental issues and a lot of like complaining about politics, a lot of complaining and that kind of energy, that's tiring, I suppose. Whereas if it's a really authentic connection, that can actually be rejuvenating. So but there's not a massive fear that arises, like, oh, okay, if I've kind of exhausted my nervous system a little bit, I just got to kind of fit into it and sit with it. So yeah, that's what comes up. Julian, I made a lot of body therapy with a smart and sensitive therapist, which helped a lot to get in contact with my body, and also did stellate ganglion block, which brought me a lot of taste and smell back. Awesome. For a while. Unfortunately, I got corona again, but was not that bad so far. Let's see. I try to go the way further, which I made before the recent infection, and I will get ketamine in hospital soon. Awesome, Julian. Yeah, I think that working with a body therapist that was a good idea, because yeah, I remember when we were talking that's I think a good way to go is like get in touch with the body. So yeah, good on you, man. That's really good. And yeah, glad to hear you got a bit of the taste and smell back. And sorry about the COVID, but yeah, that's when that's kind of the resilience tester, right? Is it's like, okay, how do we deal when this shit happens again, and then just being gentle and sensitive with whatever comes up, but realizing that yeah, we have the capacity to face this. Yeah, and ketamine, yeah, let me know how that goes. Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of psychedelic medical, I don't know. I shouldn't talk too much about medication because that's definitely not an area I'm qualified, but I know a lot of people get great therapeutic benefit from different things. So, yeah, good to hear, man. Good to hear. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that, what I just said about testing you, that's something that just kind of came to me the other day, I suppose. Was I was going through a tough period recently of kind of deep shadow work, I suppose. So, I mean, yeah, this is a topic that I've thought about talking about sometimes, but like, yeah, for me, because I've really been diving deep with the awakening process and all of that, it wasn't just about recovery in the end. It was about diving deep into any kind of traumas, any repressed emotional material, and bringing that all to the surface, and life bringing it to the surface, basically. As my circumstances change, different things come to the surface. And yeah, after traveling and coming back home, there was a period where it was really tough. Just lots of kind of helplessness coming, things arising, and then realizing that I couldn't do anything but face it. There's nothing I could do but just sit with these deep kind of resistances and stuff coming to the surface, and just resting back into that helplessness, and then feeling how resistant a part of me was to that helplessness. And yeah, it was a really challenging. It's funny. It's like ever since some shifts that happened last year, which you could call awakening, or I don't like using that term specifically because it didn't feel like that at the time. But it was just what I would see it as like a letting go of resistance, a massive letting go of resistance, and seeing that there was no need to, there was no one to control my life as I thought there was. Ever since then, there can be lots of apparent suffering, but at the same time, I can just kind of like see it. I can see it in the sense that I couldn't in the past, where I would be completely wrapped up in it. Whereas now, like, it can be a lot of struggle and a lot of discomfort, and but there's nothing to do about it. There's no like, this shouldn't be this way. They can be like, this is really uncomfortable. This is really difficult. Fuck, this is intense. And again, even all of that is just interpretation. Like for me, that's important to see through. Like that's what's making it challenging, is all of the thoughts saying, this is intense, I can't handle this, this is too much. And then seeing like, well, is that actually the case? Or is this already here and this is the mind's reaction to it? And then belief in that reaction is what causes the struggle, right? But yeah, kind of working through this, surrendering, kind of sitting, feeling, challenge. And then, you know, a couple of days ago, just like a day of just relief. And I was like, yeah, that was just a real kind of like test, like it, not in the way that we just said like, oh yeah, that was something that was sent to test me, but that was just like, yeah, that's where the process goes, is like, okay, yeah, you develop equanimity in the really easy circumstances, or not the easy circumstances, but in certain circumstances, and then some really challenging stuff arises, and it's like, now will you let go in this? That's how it felt for me. Kind of on the other side, I just like this relief and this laughter arose for a period of like, ha, you know, that's what that was. That was just kind of more letting go. And damn, I did get caught up in the thoughts for a bit, and then seeing that, and then seeing how that's where the suffering's at, in the thoughts. If I can let go of that, you know, it's just coming and going. Yeah, I will say the kind of post-awakening shadow work, which I'm very grateful for Angelo DeLulo for speaking about this so clearly and giving so many resources on it. Yeah, it's a wild west of feeling really some like difficult stuff, really letting go, you know, often kind of spirituality, or you know, everyone thinks about it's all feeling good, but once we have an initial shift, there's a lot of integration and stuff to work through. Kind of opens the door for everything to come to the surface, and nothing's gone wrong. Nothing's been lost. You know, we can have a period of expansiveness and flow, which I did kind of, that was when recovery happened for me. Everything was just fine because I really let go at a deep level, and then there was nothing to fear. And then over the next like 6 months or so, stuff comes up, and then there's resistance. Like, oh no, I want to go back to the other phase where it was all just kind of fine. But now it's like, no, now you have to kind of, you really have to see all your stuff, and it's more intense than it ever was before, because you don't have the same ability to go into resistance mechanisms and avoidance mechanisms. Like for me, if something arises now in the past, maybe I would have thought of a better future and then worked towards that to not feel this. But now I can just see how that's just a resistance to what's happening here. You know, I just have to feel this. You know, if some kind of deep shame of not being good enough comes up, I really have to feel into that. Instead of imagining this perfect future where I'm going to have all of the things I need to get rid of the shame. And that can be challenging. Like, oh my gosh, there's nowhere to turn. There's nowhere to orient towards. I have to just let go into this experience. But the beautiful thing is when you really do let go into it, it's fine. It's it's relieving, it's aliveness in the sense of you getting back in contact with parts of yourself that you'd kind of pushed away. So it's worth it. It's worth it. Life will push you. Life will test you. Life will challenge you. But the beautiful thing is your capacity is way more than the mind thinks it is. So this is also something I wanted to talk about. Maybe I'll make a video. But your capacity for intense experience, for really kind of difficult stuff, is way more than what the mind will say when it's there, right? So your mind will say, this is way too much. I can't handle this. This is too much. But your capacity is much more than that. Your life will give you really difficult things to integrate, but it's not beyond your capacity. It will just test you. It will push you. It will push your ego boundaries to let go from that space of suffering, that space of control. And that's friction, that's tension, that's challenging when we're at those boundaries. But you're going in the right direction. You're going in the right direction. So yeah, with the fluctuations of this, like it's important. Both sides are important, right? If things are, kind of going good, that's great. But just be aware of what's. Am I clinging or? Well, really, if things are fine, then just enjoy it, right? But when things aren't going great, don't try and just force things back into the way they were. What is this experience showing you? What lesson is coming? What's coming here? That's all it is. It's showing you where your resistance lies, right? Even if that sounds maybe for somebody hearing like that's life giving you a lesson right there. Maybe it's like, what? No, that's just shitty circumstances. How's that life giving me a lesson? Well, these shitty circumstances are going to happen, but what it's showing you is how it's affecting you. How it's causing you internal turmoil. Whereas I can promise you, we can get to a place of equanimity where we can respond to any circumstances and we can do the best possible thing, but it doesn't have to trigger us in the way that we thought it was. So yeah, just be open. Just be open to seeing beyond yourself and what do I need to see? What do I need to let go of? Julian, what strategies other than meditation can you recommend for learning to let go? Well, that's a beautiful thing about letting go is that can be a strategy in itself. I would recommend like kind of an inquiry-based approach of kind of how can I let go? Like, but like let that sink deep, right? Like really sit with that. Like, what am I afraid to let go of? Like, it doesn't have to be like a perfect specific meditation practice. It's an exploration. It's an inquiry. Deep in, like sit with that, feel into that, like what is letting go, how can I let go, and just and often that will take us to our boundaries, right? So for me, when I've explored this, and that's for me a practice I really enjoy, is like, can I just let go? Like I'll sometimes sit and that will be my practice, is letting go, and that will take me right into the unknown, right? Which feels like a really intense place that the mind just wants to bounce back out of, and it often will. But like let go of letting go, let go until I've got nothing to orient to, and seeing when I'm grabbing back onto a thought, and what if I let go of that, and what if I let go of letting go, and let go of intellectualizing anything, and then that will take us into the unknown, and then see how the mind jumps back out of that, and then come back into it, and play with that boundary. Can I let go more? Can I let go into just kind of beyond the mind? Beyond knowing. So another practice is like a koan or an inquiry. It's like a Zen koan for anybody who's not familiar with the term. It's kind of like a question that you sit with, which is designed to take you beyond the conceptual mind. So it's one that there's not a conceptual answer to, and one that links up with this really nicely is, what is the unknown? What is the unknown? And any answer, oh, I don't know what the unknown is. Oh, that's oriented towards the known. That's trying to know. But what does it feel like to not know? What is it? What is the space where it feels like I can't know? That feels the same to me as the practice of letting go. Of where is the unknown? And seeing that it's not where the thoughts are. It's what are those thoughts trying to cover up, in a sense, or I'm grabbing onto those thoughts to avoid the feeling of go there. Yeah, just be willing. Be willing to let go. Paulo. Hey Kyle, trying to let go often led me to crash because of overdoing it. The same happened with visualizing myself in a healthy state. Any thoughts on that? Well, the first thing I would say is that it's always difficult to use these terms because we don't know exactly what, you could say. I could say I was just trying to let go, and that led me here. But was that letting go kind of oriented towards pushing myself to not feel this, or so like I don't know exactly what was around in your kind of own experience when doing that. Like, was it avoidance of feeling something? Maybe we tell ourselves we're trying to let go, but there's something specifically that we're not trying to feel. Specifically, I don't recommend visualizing so much. Like, I understand the benefits. I did use it myself for a while when I did brain retraining. Like, an aspect of it was visualizing being able to do things again, and to try and reinforce in the mind that we can do these activities without the stress trigger reaction. I used to be a health nerd, and I can do that in the future, but I'm more interested in what if I let go of all kind of thoughts and projections into a future and just come back to what's right here, what's right now, and let go into that. And maybe it brings up some stuff that you have to work with. But that's why I come back to a gentle approach, a real kind of let go, but with love and allowance and curiosity and openness, not like a tense, forceful letting go, like a opening up to, I don't know, and whatever comes up, can I really meet it with some compassion? So maybe that's something to explore for yourself, is not trying to come from that's where I would say both letting go and visualizing would maybe lead to crashes, is if we're trying to do it from a place of trying to make something happen really intensely, like this needs to lead me somewhere. And that's fine, but what if I open up to allowing, and a more tender approach of, it's okay, open up to that this isn't exactly in the control of the mind. It's opening up to what's already here that I need to give space to, that I need to give acceptance to, that I've been shutting the door on. What if I open to whatever, give it love, rest in that kind of feeling of acceptance. And for me, like, often talking myself through this process was helpful. Like, I would imagine, to kind of get in touch with this feeling of how can I get a feeling of compassion going, I would imagine saying I love you, but as authentically as possible, as kind of compassionately, as deeply as possible, as if I was saying it to and I wasn't imagining a person in particular, but I was just like, imagine that I'm trying to say to somebody so much that I really love them, and then kind of just exploring that, like what comes up in the body, and what if I just let that kind of germinate, like rest in that, but not from a clinging perspective, from an opening perspective of like, let's explore this. I love you, and then, well, what don't I want to feel? You know, what part of me am I trying to repress, and what if I try and hold those together? The part of me that I'm terrified to go towards, and this feeling of deep love. Oh, they can be here together, and then they can actually be together. They can be the same thing. There's no separation eventually. This is an exploration to do, you know. I would say that's an important component. You know, if we're practicing things and it's leading to crashes, again, it's hard to say exactly what your approaches were, but for me, that's the foundation, is acceptance and an opening to letting go with love and compassion, opening to letting go, like kind of, I don't know, finding our own approach there, but something like that. Elizabeth Oakstrom. I take care of family and life while I struggle to get rid of my 24/7 IT idiots. I think one of my struggles is to not letting symptoms take over my head, and at the same time do what I can and feel a need to what I want to do. Letting go is a struggle when I'm doing life. Well, I relate to what you're saying there, and I would say often, you know, we have assumptions and beliefs about what it means to let go, and life itself can be a great place to learn to let go. So, you know, just some suggestions, some things that come to mind here is exploring what does it feel like to let go into the experience of life more than kind of trying to distance ourselves from these difficult experiences and hold distance and try to let go into some imagined letting go. Whereas more like, what if I come so fully into contact with the experience of whatever's happening, so close that I have to let go into this directly? Like, that can be a great place to practice letting go, is in the busyness of life. It can be challenging, sure. So I can completely relate to the challenges you're sharing, but look if there's beliefs there that, to let go, I need to not be busy, when I would say quite the opposite, that can be a great space to let go into. And, you know, some things to not getting too caught up in the symptoms, again, to kind of explore what's arising in the moment. So, you know, as I'm busy and the symptoms are coming up, what's the textures in my body, what's the sensations, what's the kind of, see if you can shift attention to what's actually happening. And I would say it's helpful if we have space to meditate when we do have time, right? So if you do have time, it is helpful to sit, to help us to kind of become more aware of the thoughts, right? To be more aware of, oh, okay, that's when I'm up in thoughts, and that's a thought, and that's a thought, and that's a thought. And then in the moment, for me, then I would get busier and do things, and then I could see, oh, okay, I'm getting caught up in the thoughts about symptoms, but what if I come back indirectly, like directly into what's here? And then see if there's moments where you can pause, you know, maybe you can take a 5-minute break where you can just feel with no agenda. And then, you know, you're busy again, and, you know, see, yeah, like, that's what I always say is like, find, I try to share these approaches, and then you definitely don't have to do it the same way as me, right? Somebody doesn't, and you can't, you won't be able to do it the same way as me, because our circumstances are so different. Our challenges are different, and that's fine. That's what we need to face. That's what we need to work through. So, you know, fill in for yourself what's useful here, and then see how you can apply that in your circumstances. That's what I would recommend. Yeah, take what's useful, and leave out the rest. and just see what beliefs arise around what shouldn't be here. Like if we're busy and things are arising, that's fine. And then see when we're believing, oh, this shouldn't be here. This symptom means that. This means that. Okay, what if I see that's a belief, that's a thought? What's here is here right now. So can I let go? And again, this is practice. I'm not saying it's gonna be perfectly easy, but yeah, and I'm kind of just speaking from my own experience here. That yeah, that's when things are a struggle, when I'm believing that, oh, okay, now because I have this arising, this is something that needs to be fixed, and this means I'm doing too much, and all of these kind of interpretations that come on top of feeling something. Like, sure, we can feel maybe we need a break sometimes, but also if that's not available to us, then just do what we need to do, and again, see what are we adding on top of that, right? So sure, there's whatever physical responses there are, but then what is all the mental kind of stress that we're adding on top of that, and practice kind of letting go of that, not getting too caught up in that, just seeing that that's just thoughts, interpretations, beliefs. Leanne Volley says, feeling like I'm going to collapse or pass out. General weakness is my most challenging symptom. I think the bottom of it is pure fear. How do you let go of this? I would, suggestion is to explore that fear and give it space to be felt. Like, give ourselves some time to sit with that, and see the kind of bodily responses, especially with fear. There can be a strong bodily reaction, right? It can feel, it's like a strong adrenaline response linked to the emotion of fear. And I would say that's great, orient towards that, and just something you need to do about it, right? So let the body, whatever, contract, get tense, get weak, whatever, but give yourself some space to explore this, and then see what interpretations are there that we are getting stuck in. What beliefs are there? Like, this is too much for me, I'm going to die. Like, specifically around fear, this can be the things like, I can't handle this, I don't know, I can't do this, this is too much, all of that. And then come back to allowing whatever needs to be here, and just see if you can sit with that. And again, explore what beliefs are there. Okay, that's kind of the voice of fear. That's some interpretations of fear. Now, what if I just give fear some space? And it can be difficult. Like fear can be very difficult to open towards, but it's fine to feel it. And it's good. Like, on the other side of that, there can be some big shifts, right? If we can really let go, often that's what's stopping us from letting go, is really letting go into the fear. It's like, okay, I can let go until I hit this fear barrier. And then if we can just stay there, just come back to it, just open to it. It can really, if we really let go into that fear, like, that's for me where things, at a certain period of letting go into fear, something changed where it was like, oh, there's nothing to fear anymore, because that which I was fearing, I've now let go into, and I'm fine. But you don't know where it's going to go on the other side. That's part of the letting go into the unknown. Is the mind will react intensely to this. It will say, like, don't take this one step further, you're going to go crazy. That's kind of the mind's reaction to real letting go into fear. And then just say, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen on the other side, but I trust this. And the mind might not, but just come back to that. Beautiful, love that. Gave you a big aha moment. Amazing. Yeah, you got this. Okay, Paulo says, thanks. Sorry, I was not so clear. I meant meditating and letting go made me more at ease with the symptoms, which led me to overdo things and ended in crashes sometimes. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's sometimes, I mean, I'd say that's part of the recovery process as well, though. Like, again, like I can really mostly just speak from my experience. I can't tell anybody what's right or wrong, but yeah, for me, there was lots of times where I did more than was comfortable for me to deal with, right? And then I would have a period of kind of integrating that, and the, my flare ups always taught me something, right? It's yeah, in our mind we can have these perceptions of, oh yeah, letting go was not a good idea because it led to this state, but maybe like that was unavoidable, right? Like that was part of the process, is we were going to kind of push our boundaries, and maybe we did something that overwhelmed us a bit, and that's part of the learning process. That's what, how can I let go here? And maybe it's really challenging. So yeah, I wouldn't say that there's ever, like sure, maybe we can learn to increase at a level that's more comfortable for us, that's not going to overwhelm us. But yeah, I would say that's fine. Again, from my own experience, I don't know what your experience was personally, but I wouldn't, like, if I'm working with someone, I wouldn't say like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, that was a mistake. It's like that's part of the process. So you got to go where you're going to go, and then you got to face what comes up, and then maybe we learn from that. Maybe there's a lesson there. Maybe there's maybe it took us somewhere we didn't want to go, and maybe next time we can navigate it differently. But to see that, we had to go where we did go. Elizabeth says, thank you. I do give myself time during the day to both meditate and doing affirmations. Sometimes, like today, letting go triggered anxiety, something you recognize. Yeah, I mean, letting go, it can bring up lots of things that we need to feel, right? So, that, like, just opening up to what comes to the surface is fine. It's not like it's about letting go of what should or shouldn't arise, right? Like, and whatever comes up is fine. So yeah, and yeah, it often will trigger feelings of anxiety because that's what's underneath control, right? Is the anxiety of not being in control. So if we let go, it can be like, whoa, I don't like what's underneath here, but that's exactly why we're letting go, is to see what we were hiding from. But again, like, always be aware of the mind has an idea of what letting go is, and that's not it, right? So letting go might be like, oh, I need to, like, not, have this anymore, and I might need to not have that. Those are all just interpretations. Like, I remember going through a stage within myself where I was like, oh yeah, like, now that I'm kind of letting go of all my attachments to things, can I still enjoy competing in a cycling race or something like that? And letting go is letting go of that one who's analyzing everything, right? It's coming in touch with, as I said, letting go into the experience and letting go into authenticity, right? So not trying to pretend like, should I be like this or should I be like that? Just acting authentically and letting go into that, of like this, not being able to control the environment, not being able to control the circumstances. I can just be authentic and let go into what that brings up, and let go of the need to push and pull and control and make it different. So yeah, it's like let life show you how to let go. Open up to the letting go, that each experience is bringing the opportunity with it, right? So there's no wrong place to let go. There's a learning to let go in all places, and we need to, and life will show us how to do that, right? These experiences will show us where am I holding on, where am I fixating, and we'll get stuck. Maybe sometimes we'll get caught up in the mind, and then we'll see, oh wait, that's not letting go. That's the mind. That's trying to analyze. Letting go is the opposite direction of not knowing. Vulnerability, right? For me, that's always a great one, is to come back to vulnerability. What does it feel like to carry forth vulnerability into each moment? And again, we'll navigate this. Maybe we overcompensate to this side or to that side, and then we see, and then we find our way. I truly appreciate your way of explaining letting go. Letting go reaches me just by listening to you explaining it. I'm so glad. That's the real goal here, I suppose. is not to give is not to give kind of conceptual answers to learn. It's exactly how you said it. Is hopefully it just reaches you. That's what it's really about. So that's great to hear. Because that's what I'm trying to share here, is like, it's not so much about the exact words. It's like, what are the words pointing to? Trying to give the flavor of. Same with like all the compassion stuff I talk about. I'm always trying to get that across with what I'm saying. Like, it's okay. You're doing great. How to be observant of our emotions when it comes to empathy. Because of my illness, I feel guilt over not being the mom, wife I wish I could be, they deserve. Is that ego? That's a good question. So I would say, like, explore the feeling of guilt and explore the mental narratives around it. So, like, often we feel like we shouldn't feel guilt, so I need to change something. But just open up to, well, what does it feel like to let go into guilt? To give it some space, to not deny that part of myself, that experience. Guilt can be here. It's allowed. And then often it's related to, like you mentioned, like ego or identity of who I should be. Like, we can still, like, that doesn't mean like, oh, okay, cool, now I'm not going to care about all of my other responsibilities or anything like that, but just like open to what we can do, but see, like, where is this kind of an identity that if I'm not fulfilling the role that I feel I should, that's got to do with maybe identity. It's worth exploring. But I would say, give space to whatever's arising. So if there's guilt, I wouldn't say, okay, we need to do something that's. I wouldn't say, guilt means you're doing something wrong that we need to sort out. I would say, give space to that guilt. Give that guilt some space, and I can't say what somebody's specific circumstances are. Sure, maybe. Like, I wouldn't say this is the case for you, but like, if somebody just completely ignored guilt 24/7, then you could just, I'm not going to be like, oh, like, just ignore guilt and do whatever you want. But I'm sure this isn't the case for you. Specifically, if we're talking about empathy and stuff, often it's coming from a person who's very compassionate, and then we have to maybe let go of always being that um, people pleaser, or I don't know. Um, yeah, so I would just say give it some space and feel into it. Like really trust yourself on this. This is what I really want to kind of point everybody back to with everything is maybe the stuff I share is helpful in letting you go more inward to yourself and then trust your own instincts, but beware of the kind of the mind traps. Basically, it's like the thoughts will say this and the thoughts will say that, and then kind of trust the deeper feeling. I don't know if that helps, but that's what I've got for now. But often a lot of these like identities of I need to be better, I should be somebody else for this person, I need to be a better for this person. Um, that's often got a lot to do with not being able to feel something within ourselves, right? If I just look at myself, a lot of my identities around, guilt and self-judgment had to do with the fact that I couldn't feel guilt and self-judgment. I didn't know how to let that be. And then the response was, I need to be better. It's like, okay, the more we do this work of being able to feel it, the more authentic we can be. And the more authentic we can be, that's one of the best gifts we can offer anybody, because now we're not trying to be better because of our own interpretations of like, oh, this person needs this from me, but actually maybe is that just my own like stuff playing out? So let me work within myself, and then the more authentic I can be, the more I can listen, and I can feel where there's a boundary that I need to set for myself. That's important as well. Is like sometimes you got to be selfish with this. Is give yourself the space you need, but by doing that, that can open up an opportunity to be more authentic in our relationships, to be more hearing what does this person, you can just be more open when we're not projecting our own stuff out of it. It's like, oh, I'm guilty, I need to do this and this and this. If we do this work, I would say that can help us be more open in the relationships that we're in these kinds of things. So often it can feel like, oh, if I just feel into the guilt instead of reacting to it, maybe that's the wrong thing to do. But I would say it can really be, it's one of the most helpful and compassionate things we can do for others is to sort out our own shit so that we can not be kind of acting from that place anymore, because we're always kind of acting out our own stuff. So we're not seeing anybody for who they really are. We're seeing our own interpretation of it. I love Adyashanti in one of his books. I think it was which one? Falling into Grace. He said something about like mental images, and it really, like the first time I heard it, it really struck me as like so true that you're just not seeing anybody for who they are. Like for myself, like you're not. You've got an image of yourself. You've got an image of, for me, like my family members, my friends, and that's all my own mental images of them. And they've got their own images of themselves, and they've got an image of me. And none of this is all just images in the mind. Like it's none of it is real. And when you can see that, then it can be like, oh my goodness, like and then I would start to explore this, like when I'm interacting with somebody, what if I drop all of my kind of past perceptions of this person? And oh, I know who this is. This is a family member. Yeah, they're this person, they're like this, they're like that. Like, wait, that's all my image of them. And when you're open to that, it's like, wow, it's so different to give them a complete fresh slate of like, who are you? Who are you if I don't project anything? And then you see how much you were. Like for me, that was like a wow moment, and like, wow, like like in a friend or an ex-girlfriend or whatever. It's like I thought they were this and I thought they were that, but they're their own person, and I've never actually seen them for who they are, and I've never seen this person for who they are until we can kind of work through all of our own conditioning and filters. um, we're going to keep doing that. So that's just, yeah, that's something for me that came to mind now. Like, um, really feeling into that. Like, wow, everybody that I think I know, I'm interacting with an image most of the time. What is it like to drop that? Like, and then you're like that. Then you become really engaged because it's like, who is this person? If I really just give them, if I really just open. Rosie said, thanks, that's helpful. I'm glad to hear it. All right. We've been going for an hour and a half. Nice. Some good questions. This was a good one. Lots of great questions, guys. Yeah, for whoever's still around. Let me know if you have any final questions. Otherwise, maybe we'll wrap this up. Maybe we can do some meditation. Just sitting. What if you just practice letting go right now? There's been a lot of talk around letting go. So what if we sit in that? And letting go, if we notice the thoughts saying, what is letting go? How do I let go? I don't know what letting go. Sure, I have a concept of what letting go is. All of that, that's the thoughts, right? That's trying to know. That's trying to control. That's fine. It's innocent. It's just the thoughts. So what's beyond that? If we don't just stay in that, if we like, well, what if I let go of the thoughts? It's just the opening, really. It's not. I'm not trying to take you to a place that you're going to be like, I got it, eureka. It is not in that place of thoughts, right? It's like, it's why we grab onto thoughts so much. Because the alternative is to let go. And it takes practice. Right? It's absolutely fine if we keep bouncing back into the head. I know that feeling all too well. But eventually seeing that, like, yeah, all of that whole mental game, trying to understand, that's it's not really what it's about. It's when we get tired of that, really. And then we're like, what if I let go of that? And it really does feel like going into that. That's why I always point somebody back to, like, where are you running from? What do I not want to feel right now? What am I trying to meditate away when I sit and meditate? And what if I bring that on full on? Let go of any need to make anything different than it is, and invite everything full on. Thoughts, come on, full on. Resistances, you're allowed full on. Symptoms, contractions in the body, sensations, come on, full on. Can I experience it all as fully as possible? Just let it all in. Can I have all the fear, all the emotions, all the thoughts, all the things that I want to resist? What if I flipped it on its head and just opened every single door and said, you know what? Anything can be here. And then just let go of any need for anything to be or not to be here. And notice if we get caught up in, like, grasping at the thoughts, right? So it's fine for thoughts to be here, but it's when we're really identifying with the thoughts. Just see that. Just see that moment that we realize that's a beautiful moment. That's kind of waking up out of the thoughts and, like, oh, I was caught up in the thoughts. What does it feel like to go just beyond those thoughts? And to stay in the unknown and be open to whatever comes up. Contraction, resistance, fear. You're welcome to be here. You're just as welcome as anything else. Don't need to fight with you. How relieving to let go of anything that we need to fight with. And maybe when we're doing this, I like to put some attention in, like, the center of the chest, because that's often where I can feel this just kind of acceptance. What if I surrender into that space? Maybe sometimes into the gut as well. That's where there's some fear. But if I just let go, just trust. How to go beyond yourself. So we're not trying to force things a certain way. What if we keep letting go of narratives and labels? See how we're often trying to carry a narrative with us. right now I'm sitting here meditating and I'm trying to let go and I'm trying to, feel into this and I'm having this reaction. And then earlier I was doing this, later I'm going to do that. See how there's this narrative that we're trying to carry with us, to give us something to orient towards, to bring some known with us into each moment of unknown. And see, what does it mean if I loosen that? What if I start to drop that? Like, what's here if I just keep letting go of a narrative? Who am I if I don't imagine my past or my future? I just explore what's here before that. And this is just an exploration. It's not a mental seeking. I have to get this right. I have to find the answer. It's not like that. What's before looking? And again, we're just opening. Notice the thoughts that say, I don't know, what the heck, this doesn't make sense. Okay, that's the thoughts. What else is here? What's here that's not the thoughts? It's just a really subtle sense. It's the sense of you, of being before we engage in what we need to be, who we need to be, what we shouldn't be, should be. What is, where's all of that coming out of? It's just a subtle sense, right? It's not like a book we're going to take off the shelf and hold physically in our hand and be like, oh, I found the book. It's just a sense that's here. And once we get the flavor of that, it's we can kind of notice when we're getting caught up in the thoughts, and then what's not that. It's got an ineffability to it. It's not really graspable, but it's here. And another pointer that works nicely for me is what's never not been here, right? Since the moment you came into existence, through every aspect of your life, what's that feeling that's always been here? And it can help to maybe imagine kind of a memory from the past, and then so imagine like what's the earliest memory you can go back to, and then what's here, and then what's the same, like what was having that memory. It's just a sense of you. And then as we start to kind of not engage with the thoughts so much, we give more space to explore just this sense. And realize that it's actually where you want to put your attention, in just being, in just existing without any need to be, something. What does it feel like to just relax into this before you try to make it something? And when the thoughts come and the contractions come and the I don't get it, is it like doubt? Doubt will come. Doubt will say, well, I have no idea what he's actually talking about. Okay, that's the doubt thoughts. But what? what's the sense that I've never been apart from. No matter how caught up I am in the mind, no matter how busy I am, how quiet the mind is, there's always the sense of the subtleness of me. It's explore that without grasping, just explore the subtle. It's also what the thoughts are made out of. So when there is thought, what if I just slow the thought down and almost feel into what is the sense of thoughts? This can become a curious exploration. It's like there's thoughts going, what is that sense made out of? What if I go into where it feel like thoughts are happening? And again, this is not another thought that's going to be like, oh, it's over here. It's an exploration of that sense, and we can feel that the feeling of what's always here, and when it's contracted into a thought, it's the same thing actually. But it can take some exploration, some feeling into it. I really like the practice of just kind of feeling like I'm zooming in on a thought, or just holding a thought. Like if there's a thought in my mind going, I am this, I don't know. Okay, what if I stop with the I, and then can I like feel into what that's made of? If I go I in my head, what is that substance? What is it? And just kind of stay with just the feel of just the a start of a thought. What is I? But it's a feeling. It's not another thought. Oh, I is no. And we can keep coming back to this. No matter how busy the mind gets, then we can explore thoughts themselves. We get caught up in the content. Oh, the thought's saying this, the thought's saying that. But what's the context? What's the sense of experience of being here before a thought? Sometimes we need to exhaust the mind. At first, we're so used to only using thoughts and concepts that we have to go through frustration until we see that we were frustrated because we were looking in the wrong place. And then it's just, what is the sense of being me that's here before I look for it? And the more you can explore that, it's really a stopping. It's a stopping of a need to go anywhere, a need to cause anything to happen. What does it feel like to just stop? So I would say for anybody, if this is frustrating and it doesn't make sense, that's absolutely fine. It's a part of the exploration. Just notice if we're believing thoughts, and then see if we can investigate them in a different way. Notice a thought that comes up. See if I can slow it down. But if I just hold a thought in my mind and kind of clarify it, not move away from thoughts. What is that thought? Thought saying, I am going to do this. Just now I'm going to get up and have some dinner. Okay, that's a thought in my mind saying, I'm going to have some dinner. I'm going to have some dinner. Well, what is the thought referring back to? In the thought, there's an I. I am going to do this. And then who feels like the one that's going to do that? Just what does it feel like as a... For me, when I first started getting a taste of this, it feels like the sensation of I. It's like, what is the sensation of the mind? The sensation of a thought, the sensation of I. And we can just start to get a taste of it. And then the thoughts will come on, oh, is it this? Is it that? Thoughts, 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 thoughts. Oh, okay, but what is the sensation of that? So that's another way to explore this. And we can keep touching into this, right? We can touch into this with meditation, with inquiry, with a koan of letting go, let go, let go. See where that takes us. Oh, whoops, I think I disconnected there. How much time a day would you dedicate to be with yourself and feel your symptoms? Well, I don't like to give an exact specific number here because, it would fluctuate depending on the person's circumstances, right? So, if I say, okay, I spent at one stage of my recovery, I was meditating maybe 2.5 hours a day, like a 45-minute session here, 45-minute session here, half an hour session here, and maybe a few 10-minute guided meditations from the waking up here and here, a 10-minute pointer from Angelo DeLudo here. But somebody else has got a very busy life, and they say, oh, well, I can't recover because I can't do things the same way. So I would say it's more important to explore in your own, where can you make space to meditate? And then I would say that if we can kind of dedicate, at least an hour a day, half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, or 20 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here. But again, I'm not going to be able to say for somebody that, if you sit 2 hours a day, that's what you need. Or if you sit half an hour a day, that's what you need. Just kind of start exploring it, right? For me, eventually, it came to me, or it was obvious to me that I need to spend more time sitting and meditating, because whenever I meditate, I get so caught up in the thoughts, and then I'm thinking. I need more time to explore this. And, I was listening to Sam Harris interviewing people who had really deep insights, and all of them went through periods where they were dedicating more time to this inner work. And eventually I was like, I'm not going to come upon this via reading. I mean, reading can be helpful, but I knew at some point I had to dedicate more space to this. For a long time, I was trying to intellectualize, watching podcasts, listening to this, listening to that. And then I was like, okay, I just need to sit. I need to feel. I need to explore my own experience. And guided meditations can be helpful. Pointers, I really like Simply Always Awake, the YouTube channel, for direct pointers, kind of like I was talking about now. And then feel in for yourself. Again, I don't want to say, because everybody's in a different circumstance. So if I say, you should sit half an hour and somebody doesn't have the time, I think for them, they just got to find out, how can I integrate this in my life? Can I put in that? That's the beauty of this, is it's about in your life exactly as it is. Where's the space? So yeah, often the mind wants a formula, right? It's like, what's the formula? Sure, if you've got the space for it, giving yourself some more space to just sit and feel is going to be helpful. But sometimes the deep work needs to be in letting go in the world. So kind of open to where life is pushing us, right? If we're in a space where we've got nothing to do but kind of sit, then that maybe that's a good time to explore a lot. But if we're in a space where I feel like I'm losing my space to meditate, well, maybe now is the time to still have space where I can, but also explore letting go in real life. But I do highly value the taking, the time that we do have, and yeah, like a basic thing would maybe be half an hour to 45 minutes in the morning and half an hour to 45 minutes in the evening, if someone has the time. But I would fluctuate between well, since I started recovering more, then I went on a retreat where you're going to meditate a lot more, and then in periods in my life where I had more time, I would do like where I could, and yeah, it just fluctuates really. So yeah, I know it's not normally the answer we're looking for, but that's the beauty of this is um, it's very personal. But yeah, I did get motivated to meditate more by listening to a lot of the people with deep insights and realizing that they're all, Ajahn Shanti went through a period where he was, before his initial awakenings, was really like meditating many hours a day. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can increase my time a little bit. Yeah. But I'd say it's more about the taste of letting go in each moment. I can let go in washing the dishes. I can let go in walking. Okay, last question, because I've got to go have dinner soon. What are your thoughts on visualization and manifestation? Visualization, what you want to happen, and then it happening. Dr. Joe Dispenza work. Yeah, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Somebody asked me or mentioned visualization, and it's not specifically the approach that I'm sharing. I do see the value in it, right? Like the value in putting our attention, shifting our attention for, I can't recover, I'm never going to recover, I'm going to stay stuck. That is, in a sense, manifesting our stuckness because we're really shaping our filter on top of everything to, I can't do this, I'm going to stay stuck, I'm going to stay stuck. So shifting our attention more to, I'm capable, I have, empowering ourselves in that, yeah, if I kind of feed myself with more empowering stuff, that's helpful. And that's, for me, I suppose I try to touch on that with the acceptance and the love and the compassion. Like, everything is allowed, everything is accepted. But, this is really depends on what somebody's stage is at. I suppose, like, for me, for a while, visualization did play a role, I think, in my recovery. But there's a point that has to be let go of, where for me, eventually seeing that there's still some resistance in there. That, yeah, it's helpful, but what am I trying to not feel? So it's a fine balance. Like, I think if we're really stuck in that space of, I can't recover, I don't have what it takes, shifting our attention through these kind of practices can be helpful. But I'd say giving space to the shadow work without kind of completely identifying with it, right? So yeah, sure, I need to give space to the part of me that feels like it's not enough, that's often the flip side of visualization and manifestation and positive thinking and all of that is it creates a resistance to the negative stuff. It's like, no, I need to put all my attention in the positive and not feel the negative. I can see the kind of benefits of that, but that can create resistance to something that just needs to be allowed. So if we can find the balance of allow what comes up, allow that, give it space, give it a voice, give it feeling, give it love, give it acceptance, without shaping my whole kind of identity around it. That, oh, I'm stuck, I'm not going to recover. If a thought comes up, oh, I'm stuck, okay, that's a thought. And then, yeah, I would say it's something that can be helpful, but I can see where a lot of people can get stuck with this. And I have spoken to a lot of people who try visualization stuff, and again, it's got more to do with how you approach it, right? If we haven't done any shadow work, then we're probably going to approach it from a place of trying to manifest only positivity, and that leads to resistance, and that's going to get you stuck because the resistance is going to come to the surface. So that was my own experience. Is I did brain new training, which had a big visualization component, and I do think I got benefit out of it. I do think that by shifting my attention towards, I can do this. This is good for me. Whatever I'm doing, this is good for me. I can do this. Soothing my nervous system, telling it, it's okay. We don't need to be stressed out. That served a role, but then I got stuck with that. In that, fear came around the negative thoughts then, and then it was like, wait, a negative thought is just a thought. That's when I shifted to Angelo DeLullo's work of deeper. But again, I think there's a period where it can be helpful, and then there's a period where we have to be willing to let go of it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't say it's not helpful at all. I just say beware if we're using it to resist something. But I do think there's truth come up, because that's kind of the lens that we're seeing everything through, right? So if you're seeing everything through an identity of self-doubt is going to manifest in whatever you're doing, right? You're going to be doing something, and then you're going to start to doubt yourself, because that's the lens we're looking at everything through. Whereas if we're giving more space to a different lens, that can manifest as well. So, I mean, yeah, I don't often talk about manifestation and that kind of things, but I can see the role of it, but I can see the place where people get stuck with it as well. Whereas for me, it's more like just non-resistance, really. But sometimes I do kind of just see if I'm getting stuck in a thought loop of sorts, and then it can be helpful to shift my attention towards just like out of that, right? So, but it's more like then I would shift more from just a place of like compassion and love. Like, how can I give more space to that? And then it does start to show up more, because that's now the lens you're looking through. So, yeah, that's my take on it. But yeah, I'm open to kind of other approaches and what works for somebody. So, yeah, that's what's most important. But yeah, if it's someone's getting stuck, then I would say maybe look at this aspect of it. If someone's saying it's really working for them, then I'd say that's brilliant. Okay, I'm going to head. Grace says, thanks for giving hope for those still in the recovery process and sharing your approach to this men's life challenge. You're welcome, Grace. Yeah, just in response to that, like, absolutely. For anybody that is struggling with an immense life challenge like this, or any other life challenge, open up to you have the capacity to deal with this. You'll have to face some deep stuff. But if you open to the capacity, if you're open to what is this showing me, what am I having to let go of, but just keep opening, you have the capacity. Like, I have no doubt that whatever life challenge you're going through, you will kind of navigate it. Maybe you have to get beaten, your ego takes a real hit, and that forces an essence of surrender. But I have no doubt that, yeah, that's what I'd love to share here. It's like, no matter how challenging your circumstances are, there's a way through. There absolutely is. And the way is through. The way is through. It's not away from. It's not, okay, how can I remove this from my life? Sure, maybe we navigate our way out of it, but it's through. What's this showing me? Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, Angelo DeLullo, I'll quickly type it in the chat here. Angelo DeLullo. And his YouTube channel is simply Always Awake. And his book is Awake it's your turn. This is what the book looks like. Careful, it's powerful stuff. Yeah, that's for anybody that wants to navigate the deeper aspects of letting go, of awakening out of our own mental constructs of a self, and all the different aspects and challenges that come with that. That's what I love about Angelo's book. I talk about him a lot, so if anybody's listened to me, I'm sure you've heard about him before. But yeah, his YouTube channel is great as well. It's got lots of different playlists for different aspects of this, right? So, check out the introductory series or the basics or the awakening approaches or the inquiry playlists initially, and maybe the non-duality and that kind of stuff later on. That's more direct. And yeah, for maybe for somebody, if for some people you might watch one of his videos and it just doesn't click at all, and that's fine. It's like I can see how for me, like a year before, I'd engaged in like a lot of deep teachings from kind of really realized teachers speaking about non-duality and no self, and getting a real taste of that. And then I found Angelo DeLullo, and for me, his stuff was the clearest, the most comprehensive, the most not leaving anything out and not adding anything on top spiritually. There's nothing spiritual about it. I mean, it's what spirituality is about, but it doesn't need that term, right? It's about you. It's about what's your truest self. I don't even like that word, true self. Like, who are you without all your identities, conditioning? Yeah, what's looking through those eyes? But yeah, it's Eckhart Tolle is also a great like The Power of the Now. I think is one of the best first books for anybody. Is like a lot of people start there, and then if you follow up with Angelo's work, then it will really sink in. All right, that's that. Thanks everybody. See you next time.